guys, welcome to the Homestead. So today we're going to talk about animal husbandry. And the reason we're going to talk about this topic is because it was brought up by actually a couple patrons. And I try to address questions that come from my patrons first. Okay, so if you submit questions, the best way to get your topic on a video is to go ahead and just send me a message on Patreon. So that link is in the description below, patreon.com/AnAmericanHomestead. You can also get a number of other benefits with your participation in that arena. Now, let's get into animal husbandry. This is something that you can really dive down deep into the weeds on. There are books dedicated to this topic. There are websites and YouTube channels dedicated to this topic. It's something you can really get nerdy about. And for me, I'm not that kind of guy. If you really want to get deep down into the weeds, this is just going to give you an overview, okay, of what I have learned in the last dozen years. I've been doing this really since 2012. Actually, now more than a dozen years. So this is going to be an overview of what I have learned. And often I say the most painful lessons or the most important lessons are the ones that are the most painful. So I've had some successes and I've had some failures. Also, keep in mind, this video is not going to be for people who like to keep animals as pets. Okay, we're talking about meat production here. If you have a useless farm, and there's a YouTube channel called The Useless Farm. It's kind of entertaining. But if you're just wanting to have pets, then this is not the video for you. Okay, we're in the business here on feeding ourselves and our families. I'm growing these animals for a purpose. I try to give them a great life when they're here, but at some point they're going to have a bad day. Mostly the males. Females, not so much. It's kind of like a resort for them. But they have a job. And if they don't perform their job, or if there's reasons why I cull females from the herd. We're going to get into all that. But there's three things basically I want you to remember. Males are sold for food. Females are for breeding. And sires need to be switched out regularly. Those are your three action items when it comes to this topic. Now, for me, we went back over the numbers this year because it's tax season. Government wants their cut. And so you got to figure out all your inventory. You got to figure out how much money you made and how much money you lost. And we have actually it's weird. We've had the best year ever when it comes to our livestock, our sheep. We've also had our worst year ever when it comes to our sheep and livestock. How is that possible? We'll get to that here in a minute, but I want you to stick with me. I'm going to go back to the beginning and tell you how we got started. But yeah, we've had our best year and worst year ever. So going back to the beginning, I think 2012, 2013-ish, we were given a couple of lambs, a couple of sheep. And these were Shropshire sheep. And some friends gave us some, and so we started off with Shropshire sheep. Now, this is a meat and wool breed. They produce good meat and they produce good wool. The thing we learned about these sheep is that you must continue to drug them in order to get them to stay alive, especially in the Ozarks. Down in the Ozarks, we have a very high level of internal soil parasites. Okay. If you go back, all these people out there who love to do grounding, you walk around barefoot, there are certain places in the country and world where you can do that and not experience bad problems. But see, there's a reason why in the Bible, during the Exodus, it was a miracle that their shoes didn't wear out for 40 years. Most people need to wear shoes in certain places. Here, it's well known in the South that people deal with hookworms. And there's other worms in the soil. Barber pole worms is a huge one here. There are high levels of possible internal parasites that animals and humans can pick up from the soil. Okay, you need to wear shoes here. Okay, so if you're going to have certain kinds of sheep and you're going to raise them and you're going to try to do that naturally, and it works for goats too. So if you've got goats, you need to do your own research on goats. I'm a sheep guy. Okay, I've had goats on 2 different occasions. Goats are like drunk teenagers who have found the keys to daddy's liquor cabinet. They get up every day and say, what can I break today? Or how can I kill myself today? And they do dangerous and horrible things. And so I will never have goats again. The first day you walk out your front door and you see the goat standing on top of your car and looking at you like, what are you going to do about it? That's the day you realize, you know what, there's got to be an easier way. And there is an easier way. It's called sheep. Now, moving on. I know about sheep. So the Shropshire was a meat and wool producer. Fantastic meat and wool producer. But they required drugs, lots of drugs to keep them alive. A lot of you may have heard of the Shepherdess, great channel on YouTube, and she raises a sheep breed. I forgot, maybe it's Jacob sheep or whatever, but she worms her animals. I don't want to do that. Okay, I want to have an animal that I do not have to keep drugged up in order to stay alive, especially where I live, where there's high parasite pressures in the soil. So I learned real quick that Shropshires and Hampshires, some of these commercial breed sheep, again, heritage breed, commercial breed sheep, the commercial breeds do not do well when you're trying to raise them naturally. So we tried to raise them naturally, and one after another kept dying. I'm like, what is going on? We had this herd. We built up this herd of 12 sheep or so. And they were just dying one after the other. And I'm like, we can't keep doing this. What we're doing is not working. And someone sat me down and said, Zach, you have a commercial breed sheep. They're bred for the sole purpose of making lots of meat and lots of wool, and that's happened by the hands of human beings who wanted lots of money, and so they bred a sheep that did what they needed to do for you, but you have to use drugs to keep it alive. And so I said, okay, what's the alternative? Okay, you have to find a heritage breed sheep, a heritage breed. And so I found a heritage breed, and we decided to go with the St. Croix. The St. Croix is very well suited for the South here in Arkansas, or even further south, because it is from the Caribbean. That's why it's called the St. Croix sheep. It can deal with the high heat. It can deal with the pest pressures. It's a very hardy breed of sheep here. And so it does really well in the South. And so we switched over to that, and we did very well for a number of years. We grew our herd very, very fast. The St. Croix is a very hardy sheep. You can actually breed it twice per year if you want to. The younger females do really well with that. They can handle that sort of stress. And so we did that, and we did fantastic. And then I made a mistake. And again, I was trying to cut some corners on this, and I was trying to. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I'm switching out my sires, like I told you, right? That's the third action item. You want to switch out your sires on a regular basis. And so we were doing that. And I started looking online when it was about that time to do that. And I found somebody up in Missouri who had a St. Croix / Katahdin breed sheep. And I was like, okay. And they said it was mostly St. Croix. Well, I got up there and I talked to the person, me and my son Joshua, and the farmer there was like, well, he's mostly Katahdin, but he's got some St. Croix in him. And I'm like, ooh, I really want a St. Croix. Well, it's got some St. Croix, but it's mostly Katahdin. I drove all the way up here. Okay, I'll take him. It was a good price. So I took him. I made a gigantic mistake. Okay, I made a gigantic mistake. And that was about 2 years ago when I brought that sire into the herd. And Katahdins up north do really well. It's a more colder climate. There's less worms in the soil. They're hardier, but down here it's hotter and there's a lot more pest pressures, parasites in the soil. That did not go well. Not only did it not go well for that ram, but he happened to mate with all of my herd, which at the time was probably the biggest my herd had ever been. Okay, so all my females are out there, and he's like, woohoo! And he goes to town. And so now I have his genetics of mostly Katahdin, a little bit of St. Croix into my mostly St. Croix females. There's a little bit of Dorper in there for size, but mostly St. Croix. I mean, about 90% St. Croix. And so he's now spread his genetics into that herd, and I had a really bad year that year. I lost a lot of animals to a lot of the young to freezing temperatures because some of them were born in the winter. We had a lot of them frozen. They died they were not hardy at all. They did not do well with the temperatures. But as those females, we kind of sold off some of those and the males, and we went through our process. But those females that were born to him were raised up, and there was a lot of them, and we kept all the females. We kept a lot of females. We were really going to blow up our herd that year. And so we kept them all, and they got to mating age, and I will mate them one round through, and then I will get rid of that sire and switch out the sire. And those mostly Katahdin now sheep that were blended in with the St. Croix had a very low tolerance of pests, parasites, had a very low tolerance of the weather. They did not do very good in the spring. Most of them had the runs, and I have very good, usually ways of dealing with the runs. I would dig up blackberry plants and get the roots and boil the roots and put that in their water. And when you get the spring runs, because that fresh grass it will give a lot of them diarrhea temporarily. And a way to clear that up, I just put those blackberry roots boiled in water, and I put that water in their water, and it clears it right up because it's very astringent, and it does well for the sheep. Didn't really work this time because I put a Katahdin, and the Katahdins didn't respond as well to that treatment as the St. Croix did. St. Croix responded right away, and someone told me as I was experimenting or dealing with these problems last year that the Katahdin is not necessarily a heritage breed. Okay, it is a breed that has been manipulated by man, and it's not really commercial either, but it's not really heritage. So I don't know what the real story is, and I've never done a lot of research. All I know is I looked at the results, and the results spoke for themselves, and I'm like, this is horrible, terrible. And when those animals got to maturity and they started mating with the genetics they now had of that Katahdin, I had all kinds of problems. I had problems. And then we got to this year, and I lost so many animals. I lost 13 animals this year. I've never lost that many. Normally, with the St. Croix, I maybe lost one. Sometimes it was because of a lamb that was born in the middle of January or February when it's like, 10 degrees outside or something like that, and they drop, and I miss it, and it freezes to death. And so that was usually the result of most of my losses, or the cause of most of my losses. So the fact that I lost this many, and just to either obvious parasite issues or obvious diarrhea, chronic diarrhea issues or whatever. And we have the ability here to do our own fecals, so we know some of it was parasites. We have our own microscope and all that. So what I'm telling you is, when you find something that works, you must be strict in sticking with that regimen. Find something that works, and then if you're going to experiment, you better have a whole other side of paddock or whatever you can do with that and see how that works. But I would stay with heritage breed sheep that did do well in your area. And the way you find that out is to ask around and see what other people are. The Katahdins up north, like off-grid with Doug and Stacy, they have Katahdins up north. They do fine because it's a colder temperature up there, and they don't have to deal with the parasite pressures in the soil that we do here. I mean, Doug walks around barefoot all the time. You can't do that here. You may try, but you're gonna get hookworms if you do. It's well known. You can do any round of research on just Google hookworms in the South, and oh my gosh, the amount of information. If you're walking around barefoot down here, you're gonna pay. Anyway, and other places, I know Wrangler Star. He lives up in the Pacific Northwest. He walks around barefoot all the time too, crazy. And but he doesn't have the parasite pressures in his soil either up there because it's too cold. All that to say, here in the South, you have to deal with things where you are. And when it comes to animal husbandry, ask around, see what works, and then adjust fire accordingly, to your needs and what you're trying to get out of your herd. Here we are trying to do as much animal food production. This is for food products. This is for food. This is for going into the freezer camp, as Bear says. That's what we're in the business of doing. I want to put meat in the freezer. Okay. Now, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think we have the pest pressures here because of the high humidity that allows those parasites to be in the soil. So all that aside, we have had our best year and worst year ever. I lost 13 because, we got the numbers run. I lost 13 animals to various reasons. Never had that happen before. Absolute insanity is because the mistake I made the mistake of bringing in that Katahdin into my herd, and I lowered the hardiness of my herd. I'm in the middle of fixing that now. The sire that I have now is 100% pure St. Croix, and I'm going to make sure I seek out 100% pure St. Croix from now on. And then going forward, we had the best year because, we had the best year because we sold 35 sheep and I got a couple more on slot just for sale, and that's it. I'm good for the year, and then I have my females to produce. I really lowered my herd this year because I'm trying to allow my grass to recover somewhat. I'm going to be doing some fertilizer on the soil, some natural fertilizers and things like that to help boost grass production. If you're going to be a good sheep farmer or a good goat farmer or a good cow farmer, you must first be a good grass farmer. The grass is what you need to concentrate on first before you can concentrate on your herd. And so I'm going to go back and revisit some basics and try to build up my grass again in some ways that I want to do. And then, going forward, just making sure I keep, with the practices that I know works. Some of you guys have been doing this for a while too, and you have your own strategies. Share your strategies below. What has worked for you and what has harmed you may help someone else if they're reading the comments below. A lot of us are in the business of doing this because we want to be able to provide food for ourselves. The kind of meat garbage they're selling in the stores today, you have no idea if it's actually real or not, or how that meat was raised. The only way you know is when you raise your meat yourself. So that's why a lot of us do what we do. We want to be able to put meat in the freezer that we know is good for us, know is good for our families. And a lot of us will go through the trouble of dealing with all these issues because we care so much about this issue. Leave your comments below, positive or negative, on your experiences. People will read those comments and they will benefit from them. So do not engage in the conversation here because it's valuable. What you have to say and your experience is valuable. Anyway, that's been my experience. We had the best year and worst year ever. Going forward now, we're just going to be doing 100% St. Croix, and we'll see. I know we'll get back on track, and we're already in that process of doing that. We have a good herd. It's smaller this year going forward, but it's going to be a good herd coming up. All right, looking forward to hearing your comments. Hey, check out our merchandise over at theperfectpickler.com if you want to get into probiotics and making your own probiotics from the comfort of your own kitchen. This is the kit you want to get, the Master System Kit. Get you started. It's an easy system. Load it, lock it, and leave it. And also check out our merchandise over at teespring.com. You can find our Stupid Should Hurt shirt. The stupid hurts. If we had more hurt in this world, we'd have an awful lot less stupid. And I was stupid for bringing in those Katahdins into my herd. I should not have done that. And not here in the South. It just doesn't work. But you live and learn, and the best lessons are the ones that are usually the most painful. Let me know if I'm correct on that in the comments below. All right, guys. See you next time in the homestead. Bye. The largest Roman gold stash ever found was in Trier, Germany in 1993. 2,500 Roman coins worth over $1.2 million in melt value today was pulled from an excavation site. The obvious lesson here is that gold holds its value over time. Now, take this stack of old Soviet Union rubles. Do you know how much these are worth? Zilch. It's paper. It holds no value, and like all paper and government fiat currencies, will not last the test of time. Nobody 1,000 years from now is going to unearth these and jump for joy at the wealth that they have just uncovered. Only one historical example of wealth preservation has stood the test of time over and over again. The safeguard of physical gold and silver. If you have spent your entire working life putting money into a 401k or other savings and investment products, they have likely made pulling your money out either very hard or almost impossible. Genesis Gold Group can help you put that money safely into a physical gold and silver product that, like the Roman coins, will maintain their buying power long into the future. Call Genesis Gold Group today, right now, and let them develop a strategy for your savings, 401k, or self-directed IRA. A strategy of physical gold and silver. You can call the number on the screen or visit them at genesisgoldgroup.com. And be sure to say that you heard about them from an American Homestead. Hey guys, did you know you can become a patron of an American Homestead? They get access to private videos, and we send them gifts from the homestead that we make here on the homestead. And we also enter our patrons into special giveaways that are only available to them. And before you go, please check out these other great videos. Go ahead, click. I'll wait.